Everyone says modern gasoline ruined the classic muscle cars. Others blame ethanol. Some say the engines have simply worn out. But after decades of testing these cars and engines on the street, at the track, and on the dyno, I've learned something very surprising. Most muscle cars do not feel like they did in 1968 for 5 very specific reasons, and most of them can be improved. So let's step back in time to 1968. And you walk into your dealership to purchase a new GTO, Chevelle, Camaro, Mustang, Dart, Super B, GTX, or in this case, a 68 Roadrunner. Everything was properly tuned. Everything on the car was new. The Chrysler engineers and the dealership technicians had gotten the engine calibrated as best as possible. The distributor carburetor or carburetors, compression, and valve train were exactly as they were designed to be. So what changed in 60 years? As I visited Carlisle this past weekend, I was amazed at the amount of cars that looked great and could not run. Sputtering, couldn't start, being pushed on and off of trailers, not an ability to drive these cars and enjoy them. What happened? Reason number 1, and it is something we can change. Ignition timing drift. We've mentioned this multiple times on this channel, and it continues to come up. Things that need to be addressed. Is the initial advance, the base timing proper? Is the mechanical advance operating properly? Vacuum advance, you are using it, correct? Are the distributors worn out, bushings worn out, the governor slots worn out? Were incorrect parts used to replace the original factory parts? And how many people set the timing just by ear? If you look back through my videos, you'll see I recently tested on a dyno our 67 Dart with a slant 6. And through distributor timing adjustments only, initial timing and mechanical advance limitations or limits, we were able to increase the torque by over 12 pound-feet at the rear wheels. That's an impressive number for relatively no dollars and no cents. The second reason your car does not run like it did in the 1960s is something that's not adjustable by us. It's going to be the fuel that we're allowed to use today. Lower octane, 1960s, Sunoco had 260, the Sunoco 260, you could dial it up and it was over 100 octane. Today, in many states, 93 is the max, or 92 or 91 octane. So your timing is going to have to be adjusted to compensate for this new fuel. Ethanol, which has less BTU value than straight E0 fuel. We don't have lead anymore, so your 68 needs exhaust valve seats that are hardened, or at least when you go in the engine, you should have hardened seats put in. If you ran leaded fuel for years, your seats are probably pretty good for the limited amount of driving you do on today's fuels. But we've added ethanol. Different combustion characteristics with today's fuels, lower energy, as I mentioned, different volatility, and octane misconceptions run wild. Avoid saying modern fuels ruined muscle cars. Instead, think about the fuel as this is what we have today, and we're going to make it work. The third reason is adjustable. We can fix it. Carburetors that have drifted out of calibration. We all know those people that pop the hood and have to start playing with the idle mixture screws and the screws to adjust the RPM. And if they have various screws or things they can take out, jets, air bleeds, they've played around with them because they read in some magazine or a friend told them that this is the hot ticket and this is what you need to do. Probably didn't help. Are your float levels correct? When we took the 68 Roadrunners AFBs apart, the floats were wrong. They were set incorrectly. But before we even got into the carburetor, linkages were incorrect. They'd been bent. The S linkages on the accelerator pump arms were backwards. So somebody'd been in messing around. Do the accelerator pumps work? With leather accelerator pump diaphragms and ethanol fuel, you're going to end up with a dried out and cracked accelerator pump circuit eventually, the pump. Do you have vacuum leaks? Are your carburetors secured with a gasket underneath? Is your intake manifold correct? Are all your vacuum ports plugged? Or do they have a vacuum hose on them that's in good condition? Did you use a rebuild kit that was for your carburetor? Or did you just assume this is good enough? How about the shafts in your carburetors? Are they worn out? Do they need to be taken out and rebushed so that way you won't have a vacuum leak around the shafts on your carburetor? When you put the carburetor back together, did you have factory specs to follow to get the baseline so you could make your adjustments and tuning from there? If you just guessed at any of these things, quite possibly you're going to have a carburetor that's not operating properly. Age takes a toll. Reason number 4. We can fix this as well. Things you should consider. Is the compression still the same as it was when it was new? Compression testing would show that is beneficial, it's correct, or it's no longer correct in all the cylinders or some of the cylinders. Do you have camshaft wear? You can check that with a dial indicator, and you could also check your valve lash. Has it loosened up? Quite possibly you've had a lobe that's worn. Do leak down tests to see if your seals are good, your seats and valves are making good contact and sealing, and your rings are sealing to the cylinder walls properly. Are the valve springs in good condition? There's tools to test valve springs, and there's ways to take the valve springs off with the head still on. How about timing chain stretch? That's going to mess around with your cam timing tremendously, and you'll have a variable valve timing engine from the 1960s that you don't want. So make sure you've tested all those components to make sure they're operating properly. If not, replace the valve springs, replace the worn camshaft and tappets. Take the engine apart, hone the cylinders and reseal with new rings. Have the valve seats ground and the faces of the valves ground so you have a new seal that's better than the one you currently have. And check the timing chain for stretch or wear. Reason number 5 is interesting. Have the cars changed, or have we changed? In 1968, a 14-second quarter mile was pretty astonishing. My Roadrunner here's got ET tickets, elapsed times tickets from 2 different tracks, Milan Dragway and Detroit Dragway, and it ran in the 1320s and 1330s at those tracks, which was quite impressive. This was in '74, and the car was most likely equipped with headers at the time, but I don't know anything else about what it had done to it. Rejetting of the carburetor, the distributor had been messed with, the coil had been moved. Was it still running at 323 gears? Was it still running on bias ply tires? I don't know. Speaking of bias ply tires, today we have radials, much better tires than the bias ply tires of the day. Our old cars had drum brakes on the front and the rear. Today it's almost impossible to find drum brakes on the rear of something. Even minivans have disc brakes now. And the cars of the day were heavy. They didn't corner well. But does our memory go back and think, oh, they were better than they actually were? Today's cars, we've got family SUVs that can run in the 14s. We've got cars with over 700 horsepower. We've got supercharged cars when they're aftermarket parts installed that are close to 1,000. Pro stock didn't even have those kind of numbers in the 1970s. Radial tires transformed the industry. Today's cars have tremendous horsepower and torque. So would my perfectly restored, which it's not, Hemi be able to compete with today's cars? Well, I drive it on the street with them and it can go 55, 60, 65. It can idle in traffic without overheating. But it's certainly not something that's going to be as comfortable as today's car. That bench seat is okay at best. It's what they had back then. The car's noisier than today's cars. But these are all things you accept when you get an older car. The good news is 4 out of those 5 reasons or concerns are correctable. We can take care of it. We can fix it. So before you go spend thousands of dollars to rebuild your engine, just to get the performance you think it should have or correct drivability concerns, get your ignition timing correct. Ensure your distributor operates properly. Make sure your carburetors are in good condition. Make sure your fuel system operates as it should. Check the engine's overall health. Make sure you have the proper compression, leak down, timing chain stretch, and then lower your expectations. Comparing them to today's cars is a different world. So if you do these things, your engine will probably run much better, greater performance, better drivability. You'll enjoy operating the car more, and you'll take it out on those cruises on Sunday and still be able to idle in traffic when you need to. Thanks for sticking with us today on Mo Power Garage. I'm the Professor. I'll talk to you again next week.